Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into the next section of the Bhagavad Gita based on the materials you sent over, specifically chapters 7 through 12.
That's right. And our aim, like always, is to really pull out those key nuggets, the core insights from these chapters.
Exactly, to give you that essential understanding without getting lost in, well, too much complexity. These chapters cover some big ground, don't they?
They really do. We're looking at the nature of God, the idea of devotion, and that incredible vision of the cosmic form. It builds nicely on the earlier chapters.
It sounds like it moves from philosophy towards maybe more direct experience.
In a way, yes. It starts outlining clearer paths, connecting the abstract with more personal and practical ways to approach spiritual understanding.
Okay, sounds fascinating. Let's start with chapter 7 then, knowledge of the absolute. What's the main takeaway here?
Well, the fundamental idea in chapter 7 is really about the interconnectedness of everything.
Interconnectedness.
Yeah. It explains that the whole universe, our inner world, thoughts, feelings, and the outer world, the object, it's all basically a manifestation of the supreme being, God or Brahman.
Ah, okay. So not just created by God, but actually part of God's reality, like an expression.
Precisely. It talks about God's energy having two aspects. There's the lower material energy, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intellect, ego, the changeable stuff.
The building blocks of the material world, sort of.
Right. And then there's the higher spiritual energy. That's the life force, the consciousness that sustains everything.
Okay. So even the mundane is divine, in a sense.
That's the perspective, yeah. It's all part of this divine tapestry.
Does the chapter suggest this is easy to see? Or commonly understood?
Actually, no. It points out that while God is in everything, not many people really perceive it that way.
Oh.
There's a verse that says something like, out of thousands, maybe one person really strives for perfection. And even out of those who strive, maybe only one truly knows God.
Wow. So true understanding takes real effort. It's not just handed to you.
It seems so. It requires dedication, maybe looking beyond the surface. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why is it so hidden if it's everywhere? Is it our perception?
Good question. Something for you, the listener, to ponder maybe. Okay, let's move to chapter 8. Attaining the Supreme. Arjuna asks some key questions here.
Yes, he does. And chapter 8 really emphasizes getting clear on the terminology. It's like building a foundation.
Okay, what terms are we talking about?
He asks about Brahman. That's the ultimate imperishable reality. The self, our own essential spiritual nature, karma action, the creative force, the material world, perishable nature, demigods, cosmic forces or beings,
What?
and the Lord in sacrifice,
Who is?
identified as the divine presence within each body, the indweller. Getting these definitions straight is pretty crucial for what comes next.
Makes sense. Laying the groundwork. What's another key point from chapter 8?
A really significant one is about our state of mind at the moment of death.
Oh, right. I remember this being important.
Extremely. The chapter states clearly that whatever state of being one remembers when leaving the body, that state one will attain without fail. So, thinking of God at that time leads to attaining God's nature.
That really underscores the importance of, well, practice, doesn't it? Cultivating that remembrance throughout life, not just hoping for it at the end.
Exactly. It's about consistent practice, consistent focus. Where is your mind most of the time? That's likely where it'll be at the end.
Food for thought, definitely. Okay, chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. Sounds intriguing. What's revealed here?
Chapter 9 goes deeper into God's relationship with the universe. One core idea is that the entire universe is pervaded by God, but in his unmanifest form.
Unmanifest meaning.
Like not obvious to the senses. Think of it like the wind. It's everywhere in space, moving things, but space itself isn't affected by it. God pervades everything but remains detached, unaffected.
So present everywhere, but not limited by anything. That's a bit mind-bending.
It is. And another key point follows from that. Actions don't bind God, and they don't have to bind us either.
How so? We act all the time.
It's about the attachment to the action, the ego involved. If we act without ego, without craving specific personal results, performing actions as an offering or service, then those actions don't create the same karmic knots, the likes and dislikes that bind us.
Ah, so it's the why and how behind the action, not just the action itself. That offers a way to act without being constantly worried about the outcome.
Precisely. It's about freedom in action, not necessarily freedom from action.
Interesting. Okay, let's look at chapter 10, the opulence of the absolute. This sounds like it focuses on God's grandeur.
Yes, exactly. Arjuna basically asks, how can I see you? Where are you most apparent? And Krishna responds by explaining that anything really powerful, beautiful, or glorious, Well, that's just a fraction of his divine splendor.
So seeing the peaks of existence as hints at the source.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It gives examples to help us recognize this.
Like what?
Things like Vishnu among certain demigods, the sun among lights, Shiva among others, Arjuna himself among warriors, even the syllable OM among words.
So the best of everything points back to the divine.
That's the idea. It helps you see the divine reflected in the world's excellences. It's a way to perceive God through the creation.
That's a practical way to connect. What's the other main takeaway from chapter 10?
It also stresses that God is the ultimate source of everything. Creation, maintenance, dissolution, the beginning, middle, and end.
The ultimate ground of being.
Right. And that really knowing God means understanding him as unborn without beginning, the supreme Lord of everything. It ties all those manifestations back to the single source.
Okay. That sets the stage quite dramatically for chapter 11, the universal form. This is where Arjuna gets that famous vision.
Yes, this is a pivotal chapter. At Arjuna's request, Krishna reveals his Vishvarupa, his cosmic form. And the main takeaway is just the sheer scale and intensity of it.
Hard to even imagine, I suppose.
Absolutely. Arjuna sees countless forms, eyes, mouths, weapons, ornaments. The entire universe, all beings, all phenomena, contained within this one infinite form. Both creation and destruction happening simultaneously.
Wow. Not just beautiful, but terrifying too, perhaps.
Definitely. It showed the totality of existence, the beautiful and the fearsome, all held within the divine. It completely overwhelmed Arjuna's perception.
So what was his reaction? Pure awe.
Awe, yes, but also reverence mixed with, frankly, fear. He saw the true power and majesty, and it made him realize how limited his previous understanding was.
Understandable.
He actually asks for forgiveness for having treated Krishna, just as a friend or cousin before, not grasping his true divinity. It really highlights the gap between human comprehension and divine reality.
A humbling experience, for sure. Okay, that brings us to the final chapter in this set, chapter 12, devotion. Arjuna asks about the best path here.
He does. He asks basically, what's better? Worshipping the abstract, formless absolute, or worshipping a personal God, God with form?
And the answer?
Krishna says both paths lead to the same goal, which is interesting, but he adds that for most people, especially those identified with their bodies, the path of devotion to a personal form is, well, easier.
Easier. Why is that?
It's generally easier for us humans to relate to something with qualities, a form, a personality, than to a purely abstract concept. It gives the mind something concrete to focus on.
That makes intuitive sense. What else does chapter 12 offer?
It gives this beautiful description of the ideal devotee, the bhakta, the qualities that are dear to God. This is really practical stuff.
Oh, like a checklist for spiritual growth?
Sort of. It lists qualities like being free from ill will, being friendly and compassionate, having no ego or possessiveness, being even-minded in happiness and distress, forgiving.
Wow, quite a list.
There's more. Being content, self-controlled, having strong determination, fixing the mind and intellect on God, not causing agitation to others, not being agitated by others.
That sounds like a recipe for inner peace.
It really does. Also being free from expectation, pure, skillful, unattached. It shows that devotion isn't just belief, it's about cultivating these qualities in yourself.
So it's very much about inner transformation reflected in how you are in the world.
Exactly. It connects the inner focus on the divine with outer conduct and inner qualities.
Okay, so wrapping up these 6 chapters, 7 through 12, we've journeyed from understanding God as the source and substance of everything.
To the importance of knowledge, the mind at death, acting without attachment.
Seeing God's glory in the world, witnessing that incredible cosmic form.
And landing on the path of devotion and the qualities that define a true devotee.
It's a rich and profound section, moving from the universal to the personal path.
Definitely. It offers a lot on the nature of reality and how we can connect with it through both understanding and love.
So a final thought perhaps for you, the listener. How does this idea of everything being interconnected, of seeing the divine reflected even in everyday things, change how you might view your own life, maybe even its challenges? And thinking about those qualities of a devotee from chapter 12, which ones resonate most with you right now? Which ones feel like something you could, lean into, something to reflect on?
Indeed. Lots to think about there.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.